Tell us why you choose to work in handcrafted processes.
Well, I first got interested in some of these processes when I first started doing photography. I did not like working in a traditional darkroom, making black and white prints. It was the darkroom itself I really didn't like, aside from the fact that a lot of good commercial papers were always being discontinued, but I really disliked working in a darkroom. So a couple of years after I'd started, I managed to get to a gallery in New York City that they were showing some platinum palladium prints that I really didn't know that much about and had never seen any before, and I thought they were just exquisite, just really beautiful, wonderful tonal range. The quality was pretty amazing. So the gallery director noticed I was looking, and she asked me if I knew what the process was, and I didn't, so she told me all about it. The main thing I remember from that conversation was that, and this can be done in ambient light. So right then I was pretty much sold.
Well, initially I began working on alternative processes for the aesthetic properties. I needed something that felt raw and personal for my work, and I love that the processes can appear imperfect and tactile. But now that I've been working with alt processes for many years, I see the value of the process in relation to the discourse of photography. A photograph is often considered a factual record due to the realistic representations of life we often see in photographs. But I feel a photograph can't adequately serve as a cataloging of a moment in time, since photographs are formed from the individual photographer's perception, and that perception is then further clouded by the viewer's interpretation. Because of this, I use the handmade flaws of alternative processes as cues that this is an art form that, while having a foot in reality, the rest of its extremities exist in the realm of imagination and fabrication.
I barely do any work in a studio with, studio setups or work like that. So when I'm taking pictures outdoors in actual location, it could be easily understood as I'm documenting something, documenting an actual event, or when I take portraits of people, it could be understood as a documentation of that particular moment. And I want to get away from that. I'm using the moment where I'm taking the picture as a starting point for a tale, for a story, where I'm taking pictures of an actual event, but I'm adding my own fiction to it. So using handcrafted processes helps me doing that, because after the actual picture has been taken, I'm adding another level to it, which kind of alternates the original capture and puts for me that level of fiction to it. Because the alternative or the handcrafted process then changes the appearance of the original capture. So for me it is a way to turn the actual event into my own personal story I'm telling.
My main influence for getting into all of this is a good friend of mine named Jonathan Kolstad. He was much more a photographer than I was. He was always, I don't know about mad, but he was probably always alert with me because I didn't care as much. So I didn't follow the rules. I just wanted photography to be used for me it was a means to an end as an art form. But he was always my answer man, and he got me through the steep learning curve of learning about lenses and focal lengths and draws and all the different types of cameras, and why you want to, for us, why we wanted a speed graphic versus a crown. It was he was invaluable and still is. The whole goal really always was to get in the wet plate and shoot on glass and shoot on the bigger pieces of glass until I can make one piece of artwork that is a work of art. That is the big goal. Not to replicate, not to duplicate, not to do 1 of 10, one of 100 posters or anything else. It's to make one piece of art that has its own value. And that's really the main reason I got into the alternative processes. And of course, the more you get into it, the more you look around and go, oh my God, there's some amazing talent out there.
The way I can interpret my work is not the photographing of the image is only the beginning. After that, I can interpret those images, from beginning to end, and that's a pretty wonderful thing. And I really do like working with my hands. I like the brushing technique. I like the papers, other substrates. So it's a pretty exciting time to be a photographer, I think, especially with digital technology and digital negatives.